Hello. Today we will be telling you guys a little bit about eating meditation and its benefits for UTokyo students. So, what is the problem facing UTokyo students and how can eating meditation be helpful for them? So let's start off by introducing some of the well-being related issues at the University of Tokyo. So for starters, UTokyo students often face a lot of intense academic pressure, which can lead to mental health issues such as anxiety and depression. There was a study done in 2024 that looked at this was throughout a lot of universities in Japan, not just University of Tokyo, but they essentially found that there was a significant level of stress, depression, and anxiety among Japanese university students. This can be as a result of a lot of academic pressure, as well as it just being a very big transition period for a lot of students' lives. They could be moving to a new town, it's a new school, new people, new environment. It's overall a very stressful position to be in, as well as for students that are in their final year of study in 2023, found that stress and finding a job among final year students was very common. So overall, it can make for a very stressful environment, which works to harm the well-being of the students here. So let's move on to literature review. So looking at papers that have shown how mindfulness practice can help to address these issues. So the first category of literature is physical health. And so some papers found that stress relating to poor eating habits and digestive issues, by using mindful eating, it could help to non-judgmentally become aware of the internal external cues, which in turn help to reduce these digestive problems associated with stress, as well as another paper found that mindful eating helped to decrease IBS severity, as well as among university students, they found that there with a lower BMI was to be associated with eating more mindfully. The second category was mental, so looking at how mindfulness traits were associated with less impulsive eating. This includes reduced calorie consumption and overall healthier snack choices, as well as among university students, mindfulness in eating was inversely related to binge eating behaviors and mood disturbances. Lastly, yeah, mindfulness was negatively related to overeating and skipping meals.
And now, I would like to talk about what is eating meditation and how you can do it. What is mindful eating? Where is it from? Mindful eating is based on mindfulness, which is a Buddhist concept. What does it help? Mindfulness is a form of meditation that helps you recognize and cope with your emotions and physical sensations. How does it help? Mindful eating is about using mindfulness to reach a state of full attention to your experience, cravings, and physical cues when eating. How to practice mindful eating. First, you use your imagination. Imagine you are seeing the food for the first time. Then you pay attention. Notice the color, the shape, the temperature, the texture, and the size of the food. Then you appreciate. Acknowledge and appreciate where the food was grown and who prepared the meal, what it took for the meal to get on your table. Then you reminiscence. Notice if the smell brings any memories with it, or is there any sensations or reactions inside your body. Lastly, you pay awareness. Take a bite without chewing. Notice the texture, the weight, the warmth of the food inside your mouth. There are times where we cannot practice the entire mindful eating routine, so you may follow these steps for some informal mindful eating. First, eat without distractions. Whenever possible, eat without your screens or multitasking. Second, you may try mindful snacking. When you're a little bit hungry, choose one snack, focus on it, and eat it slowly, such as a raisin. Thirdly, notice your hunger cues. Before eating, check in with your body to see if you're truly hungry. And lastly, check in with yourself. During meals, ask yourself how your body feels and if you're satisfied with the meal.
I will be discussing the benefits and challenges we collectively overcame when practicing mindful eating by focusing on the various points raised in the literature review and, of course, our own initiative and learned experience. We were able to enjoy a range of both mental and physical benefits. One benefit was having a much better understanding of our own satiety. In other words, we do not become oblivious to the quantity of food being consumed and thus avoid overeating. This reminded me of Thich Nhat Hanh's text, The Central Discipline, where he describes someone eating a tangerine whilst occupied with their thoughts. Moore et al. Similarly explores this concept, stating how, quote, studies show a significant link between mindful eating and lower BMI. When practicing mindful eating, we all agreed that we had a much clearer comprehension of our own satiety, and impulsive eating was therefore reduced. We recognized our own internal hunger cues rather than eating based on external cues, like food availability, certain social situations, or emotional triggers. Another benefit to mindful eating was improved digestion. This is further supported by Chirpak, who states how mindful eating is known to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, also known as the PSNS, which aids digestion by, quote, increasing salivary secretions, stimulating gastric juices, digestive enzymes, and bile to facilitate nutrient assimilation and extraction, unquote. Not having access to such medical testing facilities, we were sadly unable to monitor our nutrient absorption and the other elements of the PSNS that Chirpak made reference to, and so we operationalized these variables into daily observations such as having increased energy levels, a better night's sleep, and fewer digestive issues in our testimonies. We spent more time outdoors working on our physical health, such as in sports extracurricular or the gym. Moving on, I would now like to concentrate on the mental benefits to mindful eating. The first of which is how we can experience better emotional regulation combined with an overall reduction in our stress levels. Chirpak states how, quote, mindful eating enhances self-acceptance and mind-body food awareness, unquote. After conducting our own mindful eating, we felt as if this fostered a shift away from mood disturbances or judgmental and critical thinking about our own personal meal choices. In short, we were much more comfortable and less concerned with what others thought about our dietary options. Finally, we felt as if mindful eating improved our overall cognitive focus. In university, we have a multitude of commitments that we must be focused on, and therefore multitasking is not uncommon. As such, it is not unusual to give less than 100% of our effort and attention to each particular task, leading to inefficiency. Hinton et al. Observes how being distracted whilst consuming food, such as using mobile phones, watching television, or playing video games, can lead to overeating. However, mindful eating encouraged us to pay our full attention to sensory experiences like taste, smell, texture, and sight, which enhanced our attention span and helped us to avoid cognitive fog. However, despite all these positive experiences, this is not to say that we did not face any challenges. Incorporating both formal and informal eating meditation required a great deal of time and patience, as we were restricted with the periods in which we could practice, especially when trying to schedule it with our other university commitments. The campus environment is filled with numerous distractions, all of which can make it difficult to engage fully in effective meditation. To overcome this issue, we swapped advice and tips on how to remain focused and occasionally practiced in group settings. Keeping a log of our testimonies and experiences was also beneficial, as we could compare and contrast our own progress from one day to the next. In terms of informal and formal meditation practice, we found that as the formal meditation solidified, it was easier to remember to also partake in informal meditation as a naturally flowing routine. Next, we'll be discussing each of our own personal testimonies. Approaching now my second month of practicing eating meditation, I felt as if my headspace is permanently in that zone of being ready to start meditation at any moment. I especially enjoyed the blend of informal and formal meditation, as I felt as it was easier to stay in that frame of mind. As well as this, I felt as if I overcame the issue of decision fatigue. When concentrating solely on my meals, it became routine to do likewise in my other daily regimes. I felt as if I didn't drain my pool of mental energy as quickly as usual.
So my personal testimony was that when I engaged in mindful eating, I found that I had a lot less digestive issues, and I was able to eat more intuitively, so I didn't overeat. And I felt like as well the foods that I was eating became a lot more healthier because I was more aware of what I was eating. As well, I felt quite calm while eating, and as a result, when I was done eating, I felt a lot less stressed. And so in that lunch period between two classes, when I was trying my best to eat mindfully, I found going into the next class, I was a lot less stressed because I'd often be really in my head after my first class. And so going into that, I felt a lot better.
For my case, I found eating mindfully actually helps me to get a sustaining satiety. Before I started mindful eating, every meal will just fill me for roughly 2 to 3 hours, so I will be hungry very fast after having one meal. And that leads to me having 4 meals or even 5 meals a day. But after eating mindfully, I feel more satisfied after having the meal. And that satiety lasted even longer than before. And although I have returned to the daily free meal basis, it was a little bit more easier for me to hold up together because now I don't feel as much hungry as before between meals. Also, I noticed that I am now able to taste the very details of the food. Before, I take eating as much as a chore to just only chill and gobble down the food. But now, I am actually able to taste the inner flavor of the food, the umami, the aroma of the very food.
And finally, I like to talk about my own experience with eating mindfulness. On nights when I have bukatsu, I usually come back home being extremely hungry, so I would usually end up eating without really chewing and savoring the taste, which I now realize have given me less satisfaction than I would have if I had eaten mindfully then. I usually eat and watch random videos at the same time, which diverts my attention away from what I'm eating and to whatever I'm watching. This makes me unaware of how much I've eaten and how full I actually am. So I would just continue eating and adding snacks to the table without really focusing on how much I've actually consumed. But by focusing on eating and eating only, all my senses were targeted towards the food, so I felt more full than I usually would with a smaller amount of food. This kind of links back to a literature review that we did on how eating mindfully leads to less impulsive eating. I would now like to go through the conclusion of a presentation to wrap this up. So we've identified that the main problem at hand is the academic pressure that many UTokyo students face. The negative effects that this has had on Japanese students have been empirically proven by studies. These were things like stress, depression, and anxiety, as well as non-academic factors like job hunting. We worked on 6 literature reviews where we found out the various benefits of mindful eating. These were things like better physical health, such as lower BMI, and better mental health, such as healthier snack choices and less overeating. As to how we can conduct eating mindfulness, there are 5 simple steps to follow. These are imagining the food, paying attention to the features of the food, developing an appreciation, reminiscing on memories, and awareness of the food in your mouth and slowly registering the taste of it. We also had our own testimonies on the benefits we felt from mindful eating, and these were things like better understanding of satiety, better digestion, better emotional regulation, and improved cognitive focus. Yet, as with anything, we do have some challenges to implementing mindful eating. This was incorporating it into our busy schedules, especially because mindful eating does take more time than eating at our regular pace. So, as a solution, we thought that keeping along and reflection of a practice and practicing in groups could be ways to continue implementing this in the long term. As for informal mindful eating, simply paying attention to your hunger cues and eating without distractions are ways to incorporate eating mindfulness in your daily schedule. And as we saw from our own experiences and from previous studies done on mindful eating, we believe that practicing this form of meditation consistently will lead to greater health benefits overall, so we recommend you give it a try when you have time. Thank you for listening.